Okay. Hello. All right, let's start talking about the case that I brought up. I can actually share it with you all. Well, I thought I could.
I'm just going to
Never
go
mind.
see if I could bring it back up.
It's okay. A 45-year-old, I thought I could share the screen, but I didn't set that up yet. So I was in that meeting. A 45-year-old who essentially is like, this is like the typical client I get in my business, because a lot of women just don't take care of themselves for so long when they have kids. And then they come back and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't even feel like myself. How do I start? Where do I go? So that's why I typed this case. A 45-year-old female contacted you because she recently had her physical, and her doctor shared she's overweight, pre-diabetic, and needs to focus on taking care of herself to diminish the chance of developing chronic diseases. So what are some of those chronic diseases that come to mind for you?
I mean, since she's already pre-diabetic, that's already a precursor for diabetes. And once you hit that point of being diagnosed as someone who has diabetes, it's at this point we know that it's irreversible, right? Like, you can only manage your symptoms and change by lifestyle, or not irreversible, uncurable apparently. So
Right,
it's
right.
that's a
Right.
big thing. High blood pressure, like there's a lot of factors that come to mind.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, cardiovascular disease, the risk of stroke, hypertension, cancer, all of those chronic, Alzheimer's, right?
Yeah.
All of those chronic diseases are very connected. They all have very similar foundations. So, for some people that's scary to hear. For other people, it's really motivating to, like, okay, I have to change this like this life around, in a sense, and I'm dedicated. So there's a class, Changing It in Health Behavior, which is really important, because you learn how to gauge different people and different ways of thinking and maybe different ways of interacting with them, so that you can increase their motivation to take care of themselves. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So now I'm going to read on. She reached out to you to help her learn and prioritize because she's currently overwhelmed with work, raising 4 kids, and doesn't feel well in general. She misses how she used to feel before she had kids. She needs to lose 30 pounds. Her desk job is stressful and demanding, and she suffers from insomnia for a few hours nightly. She exercises 1 to 2 times a day while walking the family dog for 30 minutes. Her diet consists of quick prepared frozen meals and snacks throughout the day that she feels she needs to be able to grab on the go, so she doesn't hit the wall and run out of energy. Hello, diabetes. Currently, her macronutrient intake is 60% carbohydrates, 35% fats, and 5% protein. She's heard about macronutrients, is curious to learn and apply information learned with guidance. So that's a lot. We could start in so many areas, right?
Yeah. Well, one thing that I thought about was that it listed the percentage of macronutrients, but it didn't tell, the total amount of calories she's consuming. So when you talk about her not having energy, we can address the disproportionate of the macronutrients, but we can also address, is she even consuming enough energy for the day, or is she consuming too much where her body is not metabolizing and utilizing the energy properly?
Right. Or is she consuming too many, primarily because she's not sleeping well and she has insomnia? And we know that with decreased sleep, we have an increased appetite.
Right.
So, but maybe she's not. I mean, we don't know. So yeah, I wish we could ask her a lot more questions. So we could also make the scenario as we go. Yeah. And I think, so where would you start? Or what would you want to ask her, I guess, first?
I would want to ask her what her sources of protein and carbohydrates are.
Good idea. Yeah.
So
a lot of people reach for these quick frozen foods because they think that then they're just taken care of and they're easy. But it's really important to look at the macronutrient breakdown as well as the sodium.
Mm-hmm.
which tends to be super high in prepared foods. So yeah, so let's say she's just hardly eating any protein and she's hitting the wall. So could you explain to her why it's important to eat protein?
Well, protein is just like the other macronutrients. It's really big on building blocks, and it provides you that different kind of energy that fats and carbohydrates would, and also it studies have shown that, yeah, like it gives you muscle strength, and studies have shown that if you consume lean protein, it helps with like metabolism or the thermogenic properties, in diet.
Right.
So being able to, consume healthy and quality kind of protein and the right amount, within the range of 10% to 35%, then that's, because she's only at 5%, and that's pretty
Right.
low for
Right. So
protein.
her body, her metabolism is decreasing day by day because her protein is so low.
Right.
Because the percentage of lean body mass, which is like muscle mass in the body, determines a large part of the metabolic rate, right?
Right. Yep.
So if we could teach her the more muscle mass that you can build, so she's only walking with her dog, so maybe we could even get her to do squats and push-ups every morning or something like that, right? And build her muscle mass, and in conjunction increase her protein consumption. And
Right.
protein is also digested slowly, right? Just like fats. So she would not hit the wall as fast, as she said.
You feel more satiated than
Yeah.
eating those carbs, those quick.
Right. So she's probably, and also because she's pre-diabetic, those give us clues. So she's probably heavy on refined carbs and or complex carbs, but they're probably like being consumed quick because she's stressed. So she's probably like eating quickly.
Yeah.
And then her glucose is dropping, right? So her glucose is like on a roller coaster instead of being like on a level up and down that's more moderate, right? And so to do that, she needs all her carbs should be complex carbs, which are,
they're good for you.
or what?
Like whole grains, nuts, seeds,
Right.
certain vegetables, or
Right.
you could get a lot of your carbs from vegetables. And
Yeah, vegetables are great. Especially green leafy vegetables would give her a lot of capacity to carry oxygen in her blood, to all her vital organs and stuff. So that's really key. And then explaining, I mean, a lot of my clients I see privately, they're like, why is brown rice complex and white rice isn't? And all we need to do is draw a picture of a rice kernel with the skin around the rice and the germ layer and things like that, and say, you know what, where do you think the vitamins are in brown rice? And they really don't know. And so you can point out like the white rice kernel that's in the middle, that's refined in white rice, it really doesn't have nutrients. It's just filler.
Yeah.
And it causes sugar spikes, right? So, and it doesn't have fiber like the outer layers do. So little things like that really spark people's interest, and they're like, and then they'll ask about other things. So that's one thing we could explain, especially if they eat white rice. The what's another area? Like what would you say to like this hitting the wall? Or would you ask maybe?
I would ask if how she's feeling when she's hitting the wall. Like I'm wondering, well, with a lot of people, because I'm a personal trainer, so there's people who, you walk your dog, but you're doing that every single day. Your body's kind of hit a plateau. You're not doing anything new for your body to challenge it. So one thing I would ask is, how do you feel before you hit the wall? And because sometimes people just need to move more. Like, are you sitting? Are you
sitting at work? Yeah.
Yeah, right. So like a lot of I know that things have changed for people if they every 30 minutes they move 3 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and that prevents them from just feeling sluggish. And then people kind of end up being mindless eaters, where because they're sitting all day and they're
Right.
just reaching for their snack, and it's easy to just be there. But a lot of people now that I've trained, like they work in office jobs, so they get up and they move around and they
Right.
feel so much better. Just an added 30 minutes a day of doing something different.
Huge.
It's
Yeah.
huge. Yeah.
It's huge. It's really huge. Sorry, my back lighting is really poor today. The sun came out. um, but yeah, it is. It's huge. So that's a very good lifestyle modification. And the other thing is for her to like to see what times she eats. She
Yeah.
said she has 4 kids. So you wonder, does she eat breakfast?
Yeah.
Or does she get up before them and eat something really quick and fast? And maybe it's just filler. Who knows what it is? Or
Right.
does she just not eat and then she gets to work and she has a cup of coffee and then she just delves into work? So maybe she's starving herself until lunch.
Yeah. And then her
Maybe.
spacing, right? The spacing between snacking and meals, and how late she's eating at night. If she's eating late at night because she has
Exactly.
insomnia. So
Yeah. And a typical client like this does not consume enough for breakfast and lunch. And then after work, they overindulge until they go to sleep.
yeah.
And for people just to realize that, and and a lot of people ask me about intermittent fasting and all these things, and I'm like, what, actually, let's think about, like, if we were to eat 3 meals a day
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't snack after dinner. Actually, that's what is coined as intermittent fasting. For the most part, it's like normal eating.
Yes. Yes.
So it's kind of funny to me that people always make titles of all these things, but it's smart to ask her questions and make sure that she realizes what she's doing. Make sure she realizes the 2 hours before she goes to bed is really important for her body to digest and wind down, because when she sleeps, all of her cells become revitalized, rejuvenated, fixed, even. I mean, cleaned up. Her system's cleaned up while she sleeps. But if her body's busy digesting from eating in the 2 hours before she goes to bed, her body's not going to be cleaning up,
Yes.
right? So a lot of people just don't even realize that. So that's really important too. And then we can go into types of protein, right? We definitely want clean protein, be it animal protein, plant protein, whatever it is. We want it clean. We don't want it so laden with hormones, pesticides, things like that, because that's going to inflame the body, which has a lot to do with type 2 diabetes or all these chronic diseases, right?
Yep.
When we look at the fats, we can share healthy fats, unhealthy fats, saturated fats, animal fats, things like that. People really don't know about this. And what I do with my clients is I really space it out. Because if we tell them or share too much at one time, like right now, we've already shared too much for one client meeting, right? If we share too much, they just glaze over and turn off and they're overwhelmed. They're not going to do anything. So what I usually do is ask them, we try to keep their motivation up by asking them, what do you want to talk about first? Like, and if they have no idea, then you can say, okay, do you want to talk about maintaining healthy glucose levels so that you don't hit the wall? Or do you want to talk about what are healthy carbohydrates? Like, what are vegetables? Where do they belong? Or fats or exercise or whatever. And then go into that area and you can educate on a few points. And then at the end of the meeting, hi, Nichel. I don't know if she can hear us. Anyway, at the end of the meeting, we can ask them. I always ask my clients, what are 3 things that we've mentioned that you want to concentrate on for the next 1 to 2 weeks? Yeah. So if they choose them, their motivation and their chance of actually adopting them are much higher than if we tell them to do things, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, maybe, I don't know, pretend you're the client, Kazuha. Okay. What 3 things are you going to choose?
I'm going to choose understanding what complex carbs is. The thing about the rice, especially in my culture, rice is a big deal, and a lot of people don't know that white rice is processed. Right. And so that's a big that's something it's ongoing for me, educating a lot of the elders why it's healthier for them to eat brown rice. So I'll take that with me. And then the other one is knowing that eating adequate amount of proteins will
Mm-hmm.
give you energy, and understanding the difference between healthy fats, saturated fat, that it's what
Mm-hmm.
it looks like, what, like, even being able to physically detect what saturated fat looks like, so that I can
Right.
at least start with that basic.
Okay. Yeah, and that's a lot because they're all broad topics, right?
Right.
Yeah. And then going on, so if any of you are continuing to use this degree in your current work, or even if you're working in corporate wellness one day or things like that, when we meet clients like this and they choose, for instance, to focus on complex carbs and they mention rice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Usually the people surrounding them are likely interested in a similar aspect. So you can then think, oh, you know what? Maybe in 2 weeks I should give a workshop on complex carbs in my workplace and just see, because that attracts future clients, but it also helps just get the word out. And then
Yeah.
people start talking and they stay more motivated, right?
Yep.
And if we create a lot of graduates here, I would say almost 30% of our graduates become entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody will be matched the last few months of this program with a mentor, and we all take turns. So I always mentee. I always have like 6 to 8 mentees at a time. And when they go to start their own business, we're always talking about these aspects, like make sure that you could see your clients privately, but make sure that you also have speaking engagements. Make sure you have enough speaking engagements that therefore that people will do your marketing for you. Like somebody at a gym, say you give a talk, Kazua, at a gym where you're doing personal training and
Mm-hmm.
now you're starting nutrition consulting. Well, if you give a talk and somebody says, oh man, at the end of the talk, say, yeah, I'm available for lunch and learns in any corporate situation. And then you get a call and you charge a fee to go speak at a lunch and learn. So you need different pieces of your pie for your business
Yep.
to keep
Mm-hmm.
it sustainable, right? So you can lead, see how these all meld together. So it's a little side tip, but I think we should all start thinking about that. The other thing to think about is sometimes like you're all improving a lot with your posts, and some of these posts are seriously so adaptable to creating a handout or
Yeah.
to create a writing online or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And for a business, or even if you work in corporate wellness, or if you work, I mean, we've had people work all over the place from this program, and you can utilize a lot of these, and a lot of people do. Like there's one woman who started nutrition consulting with CrossFit, and she goes back to her old posts and she posts some, and I look at her website every once in a while, and it's so fun to see the posts that she wrote for my class. It's like, so really like maybe start a little folder or
Oh,
portfolio folder.
I have a doc where I copy and paste your question, and then I answer it, and then like if my classmates like give me some really good points, or like if the conversation goes deep, I make note within that post, so
Great.
that I have. That's my biggest regret with my other program, is that I didn't do that, and sometimes I feel like I'm scrambling my brain
Right.
to
Yeah, it's
hold.
organizational. It's super
Yeah.
you're doing that. Yeah. Yeah, you'll save so much time by doing that while you're in the program. So that's good. Okay, so what about, so what would you suggest to this client? Let's go back to the client. What times of day do you think she should consume her food? And let's just round it out. Let's say she needs between 1,700 and 1,900 calories per day if she does not exercise. How would you divide that up throughout the day?
I think she. Let's see. So I'm trying.
I mean, there's no one right answer. You can do you can do so many different ways, but
And I think it would be beneficial for her, because she is
mhm,
a working mother. It's beneficial for her to consume more of her I would say about 30%, about 25 to 30% of her calories in the morning time.
Mm-hmm.
A snack, um, something with protein. So with her snacks, I would probably recommend some healthy protein like
Mm-hmm.
nuts and with a fruit or something,
Mm-hmm.
something with good carbohydrates, considering she's pre-diabetic. And then eating a light lunch so that she doesn't crash, with all of that. And then I would consider maybe having her snack again. And then, so that would probably, by the time she eats her breakfast, snack, lunch, breakfast, that would probably be about 70% of her
Mm-hmm.
calories. And then dinner time, she can have, about 20%. And then after dinner, if she wants, because I think I have insomnia, so
Mm-hmm.
snacking is a big deal. To prevent her from binging, I
Mm-hmm.
think she can do about 5 or 10% with a small light snack, and then
Mm-hmm.
there should be like a cutoff time for her to consume stuff. So maybe just encouraging her to drink more water.
Right. Yeah. Water is huge.
Yeah.
Absolutely huge. Yeah. And then we also have to touch upon caffeine consumption because of her insomnia.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Right. So, yeah. So let's say she drinks, I mean, we haven't gotten to hydration yet, so maybe we shouldn't go there. But let's say she doesn't hydrate enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
So another thing we could do is sometimes when you have clients, you could create a water bottle and put your little logo on it. This is our logo for our department. And you could draw lines like 12 p.m., 4 p.m., and just give it as a gift. They love getting gifts. And it's so motivating because they actually like have something in hand and know what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
So we could do that, and then and just see, like, is she drinking? Because maybe she's saying, I have no idea how much water I drink, right? And the more water we drink, mostly when we're hungry or thirsty, we're thirsty for water,
Yeah.
right? There are all these studies now on like office wellness. If we hear running water, be it a waterfall or a fountain or something like that, we tend to grab water to drink 90% of the time. But if we don't hear water in the workplace, we grab other stuff.
What? That's crazy.
Yes.
Oh.
I was just at a conference that there was a guy talking about this. I was like, wow. And he's starting this, you know how they do LEED certification for buildings and everything, like platinum LEED and this and that. Now they're starting a wellness certification for places of work, for buildings, which I'm so thrilled about. And this is one study that they're bringing into it. So water is huge. Water also, if we consume enough water, it actually increases our metabolism, which you'll learn later on in our courses. So that's motivating for people. So now our clients already learned that if she increases her protein and she builds more muscle mass and she increases her water, her resting metabolism is already going to increase.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And the other thing is if she can figure out how to sleep through the night, then her resting metabolism will increase as well. So if we decrease caffeine consumption, and maybe she could start drinking tea, or maybe green matcha tea or green matcha latte, or something that has more nutrients for her body in a sense.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the coffee, maybe it's stress.
Yeah.
Right. So we just have to go and trial and error. Usually it's about 3 weeks where we try to wean off of coffee and then stay off of coffee and see if the sleep changes.
Yeah.
Or maybe meditation or deep breathing exercises or going to a yoga class once a week, things like that. That actually may show that maybe she sleeps like really well the night of yoga class. So we know this is more stress related. Or not enough exercise, because she's really not getting enough exercise either.
Right.
And she's 45 and she's not really doing much exercise, which scares me about her bones, right?
Yes, right. I was just going to bring up on that with, especially with her wondering her protein intake or her lack of protein intake, lack of strength training or resistance training, and knowing that she is at that age too, where women, we lose all those hormones as the older we get, and we need to continue to do weight bearing activities.
Right.
So that might help her feel better about herself, and increasing strength. She might, wear her body out where she actually will be able to sleep at night.
Yes. Yes. And she'll build her, she'll sustain her bone mass more rather than breaking it down.
Right.
With the weight bearing exercises. So there's so many things. So that's probably a key thing. So we've talked about the importance of complex carbohydrates for her to increase her nourishment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And keep her glucose levels steady as possible. And we've talked a lot about increasing muscle mass and bone mass. Mm-hmm. So maybe those are the two areas where we should focus the next time we speak with her. So people do things so differently with health coaching or nutrition consulting and things like that. What I do with my clients is I see them every 2 weeks. I find when I see them every week, they become a little too dependent upon me and don't take the reins themselves. But I stay in touch with them in between. I'll send them emails. If I come across a study on osteoporosis and weight-bearing exercise, I will share it. Or if I see a good article or something. It depends on your clients. Some clients, they're like journal article people. Other people are like website article people. And you just match with whoever it is. And then they can email me. I mean, I had to put a limit on it just because I was getting so many emails, but I'll tell them, look, we'll have 2 interactions between each meeting. Yeah. And usually it ends up to be 3, but I don't worry about it. But if I put a limit, then they are cognizant of what they're doing and how many times they're contacting me. If I don't put a limit and say, yeah, of course you can contact me. I mean, I get sometimes 12 emails from one client a day. And then I can't see my other clients. So it's important to create a structure for yourself. Yeah. But yeah, this is great. I think we've already helped this client a lot, right? And then the other thing is people who have kids. She has 4 kids. Learning to cook on your own and providing recipes that are quick and easy and less expensive than prepared meals. They have way less sodium. And encouraging them to cook with your kids, or even ask their kids to just open a box or a bag of beans or whatever, it really affects the children later on. Yeah. And so it's really important to do that. Yeah. And sometimes even when I see clients, I'll just get motivated on the way and I'll stop and I'll grab some ingredients at the store and I'll walk into their homes when I see them in their homes and say, hey, while we talk, why don't we just make dinner tonight?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they love it, right? Yes. It's so easy.
Yes.
So with her, that's probably what I would do, like reading her case scenario. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there are so many things. There's so many things to do. The other thing about the assignments that you're all doing is, remember, some of them you could create as handouts for your clients. And even if you want to write them as if it's a handout, I'm happy with that. And then just, double dip in a sense, but save it in a portfolio that is handouts, and then you can use that later on as well.
That's a great idea.
Okay. So I do want to talk a little bit about Verisight and a little bit about the writing work, because I know I've really become a stickler on that. And there are a few reasons, but I want to make sure we're all on the same page. The writing in the third person for the initial post, if the question doesn't ask your opinion, then please try to write in third person, because then you can utilize what you're writing later on for work, for blog posts, for handouts, for anything that we've already mentioned. Mm-hmm. And if you write in this way, it's more likely that your writing will be accepted somewhere. Like care.com asks me to write for them sometimes. And if I have something already written on the topic, I can just get it out of my portfolio, make a few changes that I think are more fitting, and send it along, right? But if I have too many I's and we's and this and that, I have to make drastic changes, and it's hard. And if I send something like that with I's and we's, they're not going to publish it. And they're not going to ask me again. So So that's part of the reason I want you to like develop this professional way of writing that's acceptable in the field. And also citing and all of those things are so important because you're just taken more seriously when you know how to do it and what to do. And so that's why I'm trying to teach you this. Okay. I want to make sure that you're a reputable nutrition educator when you're done with this course, or even when you're still in this course. People start working even when they're in the course. So, or the curriculum, not this course usually, but later on in the curriculum. So I want to make sure that you have these tools. And it's probably the one class where I'm really a stickler in these areas because it serves you well for the rest of the program. Okay. Now, Vericite, I contacted them because not everybody was able to see their Vericite rating for their responses. So I contacted them again and was like, why is this happening? You know, I've had the settings on correctly, you know, please explain and stuff. And they came back and they said, well, Vericite now compares also every student's work to their classmates. And so on the responses, you'll get a higher Vericite rating. And we actually don't recommend it anymore for the responses. And I was like, okay, thank you for telling me. So anyway, so now we have a decision, okay, or I have a decision, I guess. Do I just turn it off for responses now that everybody sort of knows what and how to write in a reputable way? Do I keep it on only for initial posts, or do I turn it off for everything and only keep it on for your papers and your big projects? So I thought I would start a thread in the student lounge, even though I'm not a student, because I want you all to have input on this, because this is the first time this has changed. We used to not have Vericite at all years ago, and it was really hard to teach this without it. Now it seems as if the Vericite is too much. And I think that's part of the reason why I've been surprised, like, oh my gosh, Vericite ratings are so high. But it's also because they've made this change. So it's really not all you guys. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that and open up a discussion on the student lounge. And I hope everyone takes part. And then I'll come to a conclusion after I hear from all of you what you all think is the most advantageous for your growth.
That's good.
Do you have any questions or any input?
I've noticed the trend that if you don't, after you write your post, and if you don't write reference or citation and then reference your, you know, like cite your reference down, Vericite will count your reference as a part of plagiarism.
Right.
So, because I remember I emailed you guys, like, freaking, why is my Vericite rating so high? But it just flagged the titles of my references, and it wasn't even inside of my post, but then it was very high because I had 2 references. The titles are really long, and so
and that's the other thing, because it's also recognizing the reference list as like a plagiarized writing, which is not true, which we all know. Maybe we should keep it on just for initial posts, but change it to 30% max of like similarity instead of 25 because of the reference list.
Oh.
I don't know. That's what I want to get the conversation started and hear from many of you, just to think it's something new right now, and I just want to figure it out together.
Yeah, I don't think it will flag you. It hasn't flagged me at all once if I put citation and reference and then I write the reference down. I think for somehow they can recognize that that's not plagiarism, but if you don't write reference or citation before you write,
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
it does flag you as a as you're plagiarizing. So
right.
I just have to remember to write reference and citation down instead of just writing down the references.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, and it's really important for the university. That's why this is also part of my contract. Like if I have a student who like plagiarizes over and over and doesn't really learn, then I need to send them on to the academic integrity office, which I've only had to do once in my whole life, and I never want to do it again, believe me. But that was so blatant that I had to do it. Anyway, the reason AU does it is because if someone later like writes a book or something and it's like very plagiarized and they went to AU, they'll come back to AU and people will look at the work here. And then AU could be guilty of, you know what, we taught it this way, like they were allowed to do it here, so of course they can go on. And then AU's guilty as well. So that's why they put it in our contracts that we need to turn people into academic integrity to learn even further and this and that. So it's like a, you know, the domino effect that's happened, I guess. But anyway, but I do think it's a good way of learning how to write well in this field. It's just hard in the first class, and I realize that. So we will figure it out together. Okay.
Too, Dr. Orr. This is my second master's that I'm getting, and it's a good habit to get into, especially during the last part of the program where you're either doing a thesis, a capstone, or some kind of really, really big paper. It was really helpful that my first professor in my other program was really big on it too, because then it became a natural thing and I didn't have to feel kind of insecure about that writing piece with references and proper citation. And it makes it so much easier when you're actually writing and you can just cite.
Right.
Quick, you know?
Yeah, it does. Once you get the gist of it, it makes it so much easier. And I would also encourage everyone to pair up or to, you know, ask a classmate every once in a while just to edit their work before you turn it in, because you're all really learning a lot from one another, and you can learn this from one another as well. Okay.
That's good.
Yeah. So, okay, let's end our call this time. And I will send the recording out to everybody. And hopefully we'll set up another one of these in the near future. But if anybody else wants to reach out and have a Zoom call at any time, if you all want to have a Zoom call without me at any time, you're more than welcome to. If you want one just with me, that's totally fine too. If you just want to email me privately, that's fine. If you want to put everything on the student lounge, it's fine. Like I'm open to everything. I just want to make sure that I'm here to support your learning. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Thanks for being here, Kazua.
It's fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.